to live stream. And now we are live streaming. Hey, Live on Purpose family. We've got some special things going on today here at Live on Purpose TV because you're getting a behind the scenes look at Live on Purpose Radio, which is the podcast. And I don't know if you even knew that we had a podcast, but we do. And so today, my guest is Emily Gibson. Emily, say hello to our YouTube family.
Hi, YouTube. Hi, podcast peeps.
We got all of our peeps here today. This is a special episode of Live on Purpose Radio because Emily and I are collaborating on some really powerful work that's going on in our world today. And it's something that you could be a part of, especially if you feel a calling. We're going to get to that because in just a moment, we're going official podcast mode. What you folks on YouTube are getting today is a behind the scenes look. So we're going to ignore you. I know, rude, huh? We're going to ignore you for a moment as we go podcast mode. And Emily and I are going to talk about what it takes to become a master coach. And we know something about this because we've been doing it for the last, I was figuring this out, Emily, for about the last 22, 23 months.
Yeah.
We've certified and trained and mentored over 30
33.
coaches.
33.
33. Well, that's 2 3s. There you go. That's perfect.
33 coaches.
We have another class starting soon. So
yeah, our next group starts February 1st, which is coming up so quick.
I know. And we'll let you know how you can get involved with that. So stick around. We're going podcast mode. So there will be a brief pause. Remember, you're listening in behind the scenes and you're welcome. We're glad that you're here with us. A brief pause. And then I'll do the administrative stuff that David needs to turn this into an episode for Live on Purpose Radio. That's not coming out for another week. So you guys get it early. Does that sound fair?
Sneak peek. This is like the best. I love sneak peeks on stuff.
And Emily, then it's just you and me doing the podcast. And after we're done, we'll stick around for a little bit of wrap up with you guys before we turn you loose. But thanks for joining us here behind the scenes. Are you ready, Emily?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Born ready.
Brief pause and you'll be able to tell.
Cross your fingers and toes. We'll go around the dark side of the moon.
Okay, here we go. This is Live on Purpose Radio, episode 636. What does it take to become a master coach? With Emily Gibson. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live on Purpose Radio. This is Dr. Paul, the shrink who expands your life with another episode of Live on Purpose Radio. Joining me today is a dear friend of mine who has also become a business partner and collaborator in crime. As we have done some fun things that we'll tell you about on today's episode. She's also a returning guest here at Live on Purpose Radio, Emily Gibson. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thanks for having me back. I remember sitting in the chair next to you in your office. How long ago was that, though? 2 years?
It was probably over 2 years ago.
2.5 years.
That's before we started our collaboration.
Yeah, it's the last 2 years have gone by fast and slow all at the same time. I feel like I was a different person 2.5 years ago than I am now. And it feels like a lifetime ago, but I'm also like, well, that wasn't very long.
Well, I know what you mean. And I've noticed also as you get older that time accelerates.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a weird phenomenon.
It really is.
Here we are a couple of years later. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is something that you and I get to experience on a regular basis, but I think most of the world just kind of sees from the wings, or some people get to see it and other people don't. And that is what it takes to become a master coach. I think you know some things about this, Emily.
Well, I don't know if there's any other high achievers out there that are constantly bettering themselves. But I can remember from even just being in, I think it was a conscious decision that I made in the eighth grade, actually. And I don't know if other people will relate to this, but I specifically remember in the eighth grade, I had not been someone who was someone that tried really hard at school up until that point. I struggled with reading. I really didn't do well as a student in elementary school. I definitely had problems with paying attention, and there was nobody to diagnose us with stuff back then. So it was just kind of like a sink or swim situation, right? And I have both talked so much about what does a diagnosis really help us with anyway. I found my own coping mechanisms and I just got through it, right? But it wasn't until the eighth grade where I remember getting this eighth grade research assignment. And it was the big assignment of the year. As a sixth grader, you would look at the eighth graders on the day that they turned in their eighth grade research assignment, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do that one day. And then in seventh grade, you're like, I might die next year in the eighth grade if I have to do that. And I just remember going into the eighth grade and them assigning us our research project and deciding I am not going to procrastinate this. I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm going to do more than I think I should. And I'm just going to, I didn't have a name of high achiever. I didn't have a name of like, I'm going to be a high achiever, but essentially I decided I'm just going to do the high achiever thing here. And I'd never done it before. That was not something that I had done before. And I turned my assignment in 1 week early. I had like a whole thing of organized note cards and the whole essay and the whole thing. And it was just like turning this new leaf in my life. And that was where I got that bug inside of me that I wanted to do more in everything that I did. I wanted to be someone that got extraordinary results when everyone else got average, not because I'm more important or a special case. I just really liked the feeling of being like, I'm going to do more than people expect. I'm going to.
It's almost like you want to show yourself that it's possible.
It's like this little secret. I kind like sort of like when those of you that are parents, when you know you're pregnant, nobody else knows you're pregnant. It's just a secret between you and your husband. And then 20 weeks later, you tell everyone. It's like that I love the element of surprise. I love surprises. And so being that person that just decided, I'm just going to be someone that surprises people by how above and beyond I go. And I just want to improve my skills in everything that I do for the fun of it. Right. Not to be like, oh, I'm a master coach, or, oh, I'm this, or I'm a doctor, or I'm this, or whatever, just for the fun of it, to be like, how good could I get? And what could that impact make? And that's what drew me to becoming a master coach and always improving on my skills.
You know, as I'm reflecting on our relationship, you and I met when we were both engaged in a program with a master coach, Jody Moore, who created some possibilities for us through this coaching program, but also we got in that container where we became acquainted with each other and were able to start a relationship that, as I recall, about 2 years ago.
Yeah, because I was certifying as a coach. I was just getting my first coach certification when we were in the middle of that.
When we were in the middle of it. And I remember having some conversations with you. We even did some podcast exchange back in that time period.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting here minding my own business, and you call me out of the blue, I think from the airport.
February 2nd. Yeah, February 2nd, Long Beach Airport. Literally, the Uber or the Lyft had just dropped me off on the curb, and I was walking from the curb into the terminal.
Right. So I get this call, and Emily says to me, I've been thinking about, I think this is how you phrased it, Emily. I've been thinking about
the last 24 hours,
not only just being a master coach, because you'd already accomplished that.
Yeah.
And quickly built a very successful multi-figure coaching business.
Yeah, multi-seven figures.
Right. And you call me and you're like, I've been thinking about making other master coaches. Basically is what you said. I want to train other people to do this. There are so many people who feel a calling, to make an impact on the planet, and they know that they have some higher purpose, right? And coaching is so well suited to meet that. And so you're like, I've been thinking about this, and I'm over here on my end because I've been training and mentoring coaches as well. Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, sounds like same show, different audience. Sure, let's do this. And I'd love to play with Emily. And you're like, good, because I've already sold one.
Yeah, I was really glad you said yes, because I had already had one person that had invested in it.
Right. And so it's not like you were thinking about it. You already sold it. And my experience with you, sell something and then you go build it.
Yeah, that's how I am. Ready, fire, aim in all things. And I have refined that process a little bit over the years. I've had to, because when you produce workbooks and you sell courses and you do it on the level that we do it now, your team has to have those things ahead of time so that you can, they can do all their things and get it to your clients and all of that. So I've definitely changed as far as planning ahead, which now, because I come to these things and I've got all my workbooks and all my schedule that's out. Like, were you so proud of me with that schedule that I did for our last 4-day event? Every minute was like, we're going to do this and we're going to go here. And it really, I think it's who I am deep down inside. And I think I've always been that person deep down inside, but I ignored that part of my personality because I worried that it would annoy people. And part of becoming a master coach is accepting all the things about you and loving yourself to the point where it's okay if other people don't love you, because you've already accepted yourself. And so if they don't accept you, it's secondary, where it used to be so much worse. It used to be like, oh, if they don't accept me, then I am nothing. Or what am I going to even do? Who even am I? Now, I don't know if it's turning 40 or what. You have to tell me if it's a master coach thing or a 40 thing. But it was just, it all happened at the same time for me. So I think of it as a master coach thing, where it just really gave me permission to be myself.
Yeah. I'll let you know once I turn 40 if it makes any. I'm way past you on that, Emily. Hey, but long story short, so you give me this call, right? And I think you called me because you're like, oh, if I'm going to do this, I have to go get a PhD in psychology. And your coach is like, don't you know any good shrinks?
Yeah, I was like, I think I need to go back to school and become a psychologist because I want to help people heal trauma. And I think that if they were to go through a coach certification program like I did, it would help them heal trauma. And then they could go be a coach and make money helping other people, having their mess be their message. And I was like, well, I definitely would need to go become a therapist if I was going to do that. And my coach at the time was like, well, don't you know any psychologists? And I was like,
ding, ding, ding.
Well, I know Dr. Paul, and I don't know, I feel like he might want to do it with me. And so then I messaged like 50 people on Facebook and sent some text messages, just seeing if people would be interested. I said, oh, this was back when I was very first, I was like, I made X amount of dollars. It was a big number. I made X amount of dollars this month in my coaching business, and I'm doing a 16-week mentorship to teach you how to launch a 6-figure coaching business. Are you interested? And people were like, tell me more. I'm interested. And then I started selling it. People were buying it. And I was like, I don't have time to go back to school. I need Dr. Paul.
Well, what a fun experiment this has been. And to make a longer story, maybe a little briefer for purposes of the podcast today, for the last 23 months, we have been training, certifying, and mentoring master coaches. And it's not just an idea. What I'm seeing happening here is an empowerment of people who really feel called to do this, but they're lacking the business models, or they're lacking the confidence, or they don't have the psychological background or models to move forward and be powerful coaches. We're providing that.
Or they don't feel
Because,
like they have the tools.
right,
Like I didn't feel like I had the tools without your help. But that actually,
right.
ended up being a huge blessing in what we've created because we offer something that nothing else has: business coaching, psychology, and training. It's like the trifecta of every
Yeah.
coaching program that I've had to go to 5 different places to do all in one place.
Not to mention all of the tuition that you and I have both paid over the years
Hundreds of thousands of
to
dollars.
get ourselves into the position where we can do this.
Yeah.
As I was anticipating this conversation today, Emily, I was thinking about some of the common challenges
Mm-hmm.
that new coaches or aspiring coaches face. And just thinking about some of the unique ways we've been able to address that with some of the coaches that we've been training. And let's see if you recognize some of these. The first one, there's 5. Let's just hit them fairly
What
briefly
what
because,
number is tech?
well, interesting, because these aren't all of the challenges
It's
that
not
new
on
coach,
there. I would think tech was number
but I
one.
think it's going to fit in somewhere. No, the one that I listed as number 1 is overcoming self-doubt and the imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
You
it's such a
recognized it
real
as soon as I
thing.
said it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a real thing because none of us think that we are an expert at being a
Right.
coach. And we think, would somebody really pay me for that? Is that something I could make money at? I remember questioning it for 2 years before I launched my coaching business. Would someone really pay me to do that? Do I really have something that is that special that someone would want to exchange financial money with me? Like, could it be something that could replace my income? Could it be something that could um, subsidize our income?
And it's so interesting because we can look at other people, our colleagues, for example, and we can say, of course, you've got what it takes. You are amazing. But inside of our own skin and inside of our own head, we don't see it as clearly. And this is why coaches need coaches.
Mhm.
And we need each other. And you and I check in with each other all the time about, wait, I got some head trash going on
Oh
about
my
this thing.
gosh.
And so we need each other in that sense. But this self-doubt, this imposter syndrome, I think stops a lot of really brilliant people
Mhm.
from courageously taking those steps that will put them in a position to have a really powerful impact with other people.
And a fulfilling career that both gives them the time freedom that they have always dreamed of having while making an impact.
And that leads me right to challenge number 2, because challenge number 2 is being able to craft a winning business model.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us who feel called to help other people, we've got that therapist or that counselor heart inside of us. We're usually not inclined, I'm speaking for myself here too, we're usually not inclined towards savvy business models.
Right, because we're just very heart-centered. Let me help you. Let me step outside the party for 3 hours and talk to you and help you with your problem. And I can just miss dinner. I can miss the event. I don't even need to get a ride home. If I'm helping you, that's what's important to me. Like, how
Yeah.
many times in your life has that scene occurred?
Well, and I interviewed David Averin here on this mic. And he's the author of the book, Ridiculously Easy to Do Business With. And I heard David say this at a keynote in Colorado a few months ago. He said, we hear all the time, if you can make a difference for just one person, then it's worth it. And David's version of that is, if you can make a difference for just one person, then you suck at this and you should get another line of work. And it's not that we're bad at it necessarily, it's that we don't have a good business model. And
Mm-hmm.
Emily, when you approached me about, hey, should we go make some master coaches? One thing that I had already learned about you is that you had practiced business for years in building strong sales teams
Yes.
through direct marketing and
A decade.
direct sales and network marketing.
Yeah.
This has been your background.
Yes.
And because of that, and I remember Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I remember him saying, if you really want to learn business, get into network marketing.
And it's something that I still to this day take for granted because things that come so easy to me in business, I just think, oh, well, this just makes sense. I know exactly what to do. Well, it's because I struggled with learning it. Yeah, for me, right? And so the things that it's so interesting because when I did the coaching mentorship idea and I called you, I remember thinking like, do I really have something to teach people about building business? And as we've done this together, I've realized, oh, there's a lot here that I know that I am teaching people that are just the basics, but not basic. They're the basics for me, but they are the cornerstone of business that most people take decades and decades and decades to learn how to do through trial and error. And that's really what the coaching mentorship is giving you a fast pass to the front of the line so you don't have to have it take as long.
Right.
And I had some challenges in my business this last year that I had never experienced before, thinking that I needed to hire other people to teach me how to do my business. And
when you're already ahead of them.
Yes. It was so painful. And I just remember thinking like, okay, I need to trust these people. I've hired them. Like they're going to help me. And I just think that God didn't stop me from doing it because he was probably like, this is going to be 6 months that Emily is going to learn now. And better to learn it now than 10 years down the road.
It's always less expensive now than it is later.
1,000%. And so going through that, I realized how vital it is for coaches that want to do a business to go through this because I've made the mistakes for you. I know, like, use this podcast editor, not this. Use this Facebook ad person, not this. Don't even run Facebook ads until you've done this. Do this type of masterclass with this type of marketing and this type of formula. Use this type of an event because when you've been around the block as much as you and I have in building a coaching business, we already know where the pitfalls are. And it's not that you're never going to fall into them. It's that you want to have people with arms to pull you out faster so you don't sit there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, because that's where you quit and give up. That's where most coaches quit along the way.
It can be very, very frustrating and demoralizing and discouraging to have this calling to know that you're supposed to do this work to elevate humanity and not have a viable business model to do it. And Emily, it's fun to hear you talk about it because I'm sitting here from my perspective. I was trained as a shrink. Okay. I went to psychology school. I got a PhD. And there was nothing in that doctoral training about business. Nothing. We learned, a lot of my colleagues are still kind of trapped in the industrial psychology end of things. And I learned it as an entrepreneur and hiring coaches and going to the seminars and doing the work and interacting with people like you who have experience that you don't even realize the value of.
No, there'd be no way that I could because it is what it is.
Right.
Right. I like to say I went into the network marketing vortex and I came out with a master's in business administration and no paper to prove it.
And sales.
And marketing and all of it.
Right. Yeah. All of that stuff that I never got in graduate school.
Right. And all right. And even though I don't do network marketing anymore, it's one of the best ways to learn business because it's so fun. They give you prizes, you can make money, people teach you for free, but it is a hard knock life of learning business.
Right.
Because you learn it through betrayal, you learn it through rejection, you learn it through failure, you learn it through all these really difficult emotional things that
Right.
I'm so grateful I learned, but
And
I would love for you to not have those same learning curves that I had to learn what I learned.
although, may I add that that's a legitimate course and you are still free to do that if you choose. We're just going to put that out there, okay? Because it's not the only option, but it is still a viable option. And if you want to learn it the hard way, that's how most of us did it. So knock yourself out. Okay, I want to get to the third challenge here.
Okay.
Diving into the pool.
Mm.
Okay, and what I'm talking about here is something that I had to learn early on as a psychologist, that other people's problems are other people's problems, and I don't have any business stealing those problems. When I say diving into the pool, you know what I'm talking about here, Emily, because we talk about this with our coaches that we're mentoring. If you get in the pool with them, means that you are buying into their story about their circumstances. Now, circumstances are neutral. This is one of the primary tenets of coaching, but our stories about them are not. And sometimes we get sucked in with our client and we get emotionally attached to the story. Now, I want to make a distinction here that that's different from being emotionally connected to our clients in empathy and love and compassion. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about buying into their story, and that's what's keeping them stuck. Do you want to comment about that one?
Well, I just sort of feel like when you have, by the way, this is my King Charles Cavalier Cosette that is joining us on the couch behind me. For those of you that are watching
Getting the
this
video
on YouTube, getting the video, she's my fifth child, and she's the most pampered princess dog you'll ever meet. The wolves that went around the caveman fire that were so smart. She's really the one laughing here because she sleeps in the king size bed. She gets the pillow to sleep on. I mean, she just lives. I work hard so my dog can have a nice life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. See,
Yes,
you've got one too.
I've got my mini Labradoodle on my couch behind me with two not one, two
Two
pillows.
pillows. Yes.
Yeah, work like a dog. Where did that phrase come from?
Oh no, not domesticated dogs, that's for sure. Not these dogs. Maybe dogs that work in the field, but Cosette doesn't even get her paws dirty. So, okay.
Right.
So you were asking me
Talk
about
about getting in the pool.
getting in the pool. When you have a heart and calling to be a coach, it is tempting to want to absorb everything, all the problems of the people around you. And to be a really great master coach, there is a specific skill that you learn so that you're not buying what they're selling you. Because if you buy what they're selling you, all their problems, all the things that they're dealing with, all of the struggles that they're going through, you actually can't help them.
Right.
You're
getting in the pool with them.
Yeah, like being what I found in coaches is we are almost all very highly empathetic. And so we have our friend hat that says, I'm so sorry that you've gone through this. This is so awful. Oh my gosh, like, what do we need to do for you? Let's fix it. And that's actually not how you fix it. And when you learn the skills and the tools of becoming a master coach, that gives you the technique to learn how to actually get people results so their life changes. And you can still be empathetic, but not in a way that holds them captive to their circumstances and situations.
Right. And this leads right to the next challenge, which is prioritizing self-care, including your own healing. And I know you're passionate about this, Emily, because, well, you and I have both experienced in our own story trauma and some process of coming to terms with and healing
Mm-hmm.
from the trauma in order to create and live a life that we love. And that's the short version of what coaching is all about, because guess who experiences trauma?
All humans.
Everyone. If they're born, they experience trauma. and and then there's other forms of trauma that come up, and I don't think it makes a lot of sense to try to compare or contrast, well, my trauma is bigger than your trauma or anything like that, because trauma is trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going to feel it. That means and implies, I think, that coaches need to overcome this challenge of how to prioritize their own self-care, personal emotional healing, getting past their own traumas to the point where they can actually be in a position to help others.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think one of the biggest things that really pulled me to becoming a coach, like officially, right, getting certifications and all of that, is I was yearning for peace.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, education and knowledge was the way so I could understand how to create that for myself. I knew that it wasn't going to do anything to continue the way that I was continuing, that there was nothing that I was doing that was making it better. And I figured if I could just learn why I feel the way I feel, why I'm doing what I'm doing, then maybe I could be free from some of this, or maybe I could help other people. And maybe that would be healing for me in return. Mm. And I felt that same way when I became a mom. I'm sure many other people can relate to this. I remember having kids and it literally healing parts of me, just serving them and raising them up the way that I wanted to, ways that I didn't get to experience as a child. And that was so freeing. And I feel like that's what coaching kind of did for me in my trauma healing journey, is being able to be empathetic and understand what people are going through, but also help them tap into what was it that started all of this? And what do you want to think about it? And what else is true? And those perspective shifts are life changing. And that's why people tell us over and over again, this is priceless. I can't explain what this has done for 30 years of trauma for me. That's what they tell us, obviously. You know, I'm thinking of the clients that have said those words to us, and I'm like, oh, perfect. We could charge you more then. And they're like, no. I just, good. Priceless. And I'm like, oh, I know.
You know, that reminds me, Emily, and I wanted to mention this in our conversation today, that one of the true high points for me, as we have worked with these amazing coaches over the last 2 years, has been watching their personal transformation. Mm-hmm. And I know that as they experience that, they are going to be able to do that for other people too.
That's why it's so satisfying and why it's so fun to pay it forward.
Now, we got one more challenge, and then I want to talk for a minute about this next class that's coming up, because we're going to offer that to everybody who's listening. And it's not for everybody, okay? Mm-hmm. So if it's not for you, you're going to be thinking, yeah, that's not for me. But if there's anything inside of you that's saying, oh, I want a piece of that, mm-hmm. then pay attention, because we're going to share what's coming up. But first, that last challenge, finding clients. This is one of the big challenges, especially as we develop our skills as a coach. And it's like, okay, I'm ready. I know I can make a difference for people. And then who am I going to coach?
Who am I going to coach?
Yeah, that's the last challenge that I wanted to mention. Again, this isn't a comprehensive list.
Would people pay me? Could I find someone that would want to do this with me? And I think that's probably the scariest thing for most people.
And you know what? I would agree with what you just said. That's one of the scariest things that new coaches are facing. Mm-hmm. It's also not magic. or
Mhm.
luck. I think if we're doing the other things, if we're handling those other challenges, we got a good business model, we're getting past our own self-doubts and insecurities, we're
We've got the
prioritizing our
tools,
self-care,
the skills.
we've got the models, we've got the support, everything's in place,
Hmm.
then it becomes a numbers game.
Hmm.
Now, you've been in marketing and sales for your whole career,
Whole
except
career.
when you were a teacher. Well, when
No,
you were a
I
teacher, you're
really,
still selling.
yeah, I really think I've been in marketing, learning marketing and sales since I was in middle school when my dad became a
Yeah,
real. And I remember riding in his car to and from school. And this is before there were cell phones. So the only thing that you could do in the car when your dad was on the car phone was listen and be very, very quiet because you were not in the car for this meeting where he was closing a listing or getting the
right,
papers ready and going back and forth with negotiating. And
right.
I feel like that's where I learned, that's where I first started to learn about sales and marketing. And then, it just bled over into everywhere
Yeah.
because I love it so much.
The point that I want to make here is that it's not magic.
Mhm.
And what I've seen you do though, Emily, is we work with these new coaches as we're training and mentoring them. You provide for them a blueprint. It's the freaking instructions for how you get it done. And you're not guessing. It's like, hey, do this, do that. It's a checklist, it's a blueprint. Because when I said it becomes a numbers game, there are people already existing out there in the world who want to work with you.
Need to.
And most of
I
them don't
can't
even
help
know that you
them.
exist yet.
I can't help them. Dr. Paul can't help them. They need
They
you
need
to show
you.
up.
Right. I believe this strongly. And when you approach it with that mindset and you're not trying to market to everybody, it's like what I just said. This offer that we're going to give to you today is not for everybody. If it's for you, you're going to feel something, you're going to know something inside of you that I got to check this out. And if it's not, fine, no harm, no foul. Thank you for being here. We love you and we bless you as you go on your way. And if it is for you, we're going to have some fun together. I think that's the only point I wanted to make about that is that it's not magic. Although, Emily, I want to acknowledge something else about your genius. And that is that it may be
Okay.
indistinguishable from magic to those who don't know it yet.
Mhm.
It looks like magic. People will look at you and
Mhm.
they'll say, oh, Emily Gibson is so successful. I wish I were as lucky as she is. And meanwhile, you're thinking, luck? This isn't luck. This is a lot of work applying principles that have been tried and true for decades,
Mhm.
centuries.
Mhm.
So, anyway, we've got something fun we got to cover before we sign off today. And that is this the reason, folks, that I wanted to introduce you again to Emily as she and I have worked very closely together over the last 2 years. This is the best coach training and certification available on the planet. I'm convinced of that.
It's true.
And I've seen some good ones. Okay. But this one stands heads and shoulders above
Mhm.
the other ones that I'm aware of for a lot of reasons that maybe you've picked up on in this conversation. Emily, would you just take a moment to share what it is that you and I are collaborating to offer the world and how they can get involved?
So, what the coaching mentorship is there's three different coach certifications. And what does that mean for you, right? It means you have the tools to solve your problems and the problems of the people around you. And it also includes a 16-week blueprint so that when you go to find clients and make money at doing this, because it's not a charity case, maybe it has been that way for your whole life, like it was for me, where you're just giving free advice to friends and family. You're always the person that everyone comes to when they're having a hard time or a moment. They're like, hey, can you help me through this hard thing I'm going through? And you're always there to be that listening ear. And you have done it for free and you would do it for free forever. But now you're like, maybe I want a piece of that $80 billion coaching industry in 2025. right?
Mm.
And what's so different about this program, when I got my coach certification, I got one coach certification from one place. Then I did a mastermind to learn about business strategy so I could really monetize that. Then I spent 10 years in network marketing, learning all those things, right? Well, out of order there, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm.
Then I got a master coach certification because I wanted to refine my coaching skills. Then I got a trauma informed accreditation because I wanted to be able to help people in trauma, not re-traumatize them, because I had been re-traumatized by a very well-meaning coach that just had no idea what they were doing. And then I decided and then I hired coaches for $100,000 a year, other ones for 65,000, 75,000, and all the wonderful things that I got from all those places, I wanted in one place, a one-stop shop where a coach doesn't have to cobble together all the different things in all the different places. And so I thought, let's do a coach certification, a master coach certification, business training throughout an entire year with a luxury in-person retreat because I just love nice things. And I love to be pampered and I love customer service. It's amazing. And so we do an in-person retreat at the Four Seasons. And we've done it at other 5-star locations as well in Southern California. But
It's a little over the top, I'll just say.
it is not over the top. It is lovely. It's exactly what you deserve. I'll tell you that right now. And probably nothing you would ever do for yourself. And every time that we do this event, what makes it so special is that we create an environment where you are able to let yourself go to the places inside of you that maybe you've never slowed down long enough to take a look at. You have blocks in certain relationships and certain things in life, and you've just never slowed down enough to deal with them. And you think, oh, I'm going to go become a coach and start a business. And what we give you in return is that and a solution to problems that are happening in your life that you did not think were solvable. And it gives you a group of friendships that will be your best friends for the rest of your life because they're all going through the same thing as you're going through at the same time. And we combine business strategy, psychology, and the best master coach instructor on the planet, Katie Pulsifer, who trained 4,000 of the coaches at the life coach school before they shut their program down. And so we've taken all the different things, all the different life coaching programs that I've ever done, and in my opinion, added things that put the bow on top that Zoom just couldn't give me, right? That in-person experience is so important to me because my core value is connection. And so being in the room with people and being able to break through blocks on that level makes it different from anything else that exists on the planet.
We're going to make this ridiculously easy for you to learn more about and to see if you're a fit for this. Just remember the name of the show, Live on Purpose Radio. You can go to liveonpurposeradio.com and then do a little / mentorship. Mentorship. Okay, that's about the coaching mentorship that Emily's talking about, that she and I have collaborated to create, and it's getting better all the time. You're coming in at a perfect time if you feel anything inside of your heart and mind that says, this is part of my purpose on earth, this is part of my calling, then please go to liveonpurposeradio.com/mentorship, and that will take you right over to Emily Gibson Coaching, where you can fill out an application, and we'll have a member of our team get right with you to talk about that.
And there's a video there as well that can show you.
The one we shot at our last one.
Yeah. So you'll be able to see what it's like when you're with us, and you'll see clients and master coach graduates and their experience. It's a short video, like 3.5 minutes. But it'll help you know if this is what is for you.
Oh,
You
every
see
time I
yourself
watch it,
there.
I want to sign up, and then I remember, oh yeah, I'm in.
I'm in. I'm
I'm
in.
in. Yay.
I made it.
Are you in? Do you want to jump in with us as well? You guys, you've heard it today from my friend, Emily Gibson. Thank you for joining me on the show,
Thanks for
Emily,
having me.
again. We're not done yet, so stay buckled up. You guys, you've heard it. It's time to apply it. Let's go live on purpose.